Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Everyone's enjoying the company. Everyone's doing what we talked about, which is bringing everybody together to talk about cybersecurity solutions. So I expect by the end of today, we should have the problem solved and Rodney and Marion can go about their way. We're excited to welcome you back to this session. And this is a session that, working with key partners across the community really makes this conference possible. It allows us certainly to keep registration costs down, but it also allows us to really interact and engage with one another and figure out specific actions that we can take to reduce that ever-widening cybersecurity gap, workforce gap. So I'm excited to welcome our first luncheon speaker, Mr. Roy Zur, who is the CEO of ThriveDX and founder of Cybersecurity Solutions. I am not lying when I say Roy has been a key friend and partner for many, many years. I remember being at that conference that would not be named in San Francisco when Roy called and said, we'd love to be a part of the NICE conference, and we've been partners ever since. So really excited to welcome to the stage Mr. Roy Zur.
Thank you. Thanks, Randy. So it's great to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roy. As Randy said, it's my 5th time in this conference at NICE conference. It's actually one of my favorite conferences because this is the place where we're actually tackling and solving one of the biggest challenges in the world of cybersecurity, which is the human factor in cybersecurity. And I want to tell you a bit about why I'm so obsessed about the human factor in cybersecurity for the last 18 years, which was my main focus since I started my career, actually. So I'm coming from Israel, and originally I served in a unit in Israel called Unit 8200, which is the equivalent of NSA, NCTC, cyber unit, kind of like all in one. And in Israel, it's a military unit, so I served there for about 10 years, and I'm still working with the unit as a consultant now that I'm in the industry. And one of the interesting secrets, actually, about the unit, and it's a very secret unit, right, is that the unit is comprised mostly of 18-year-olds. And I'll explain why, right? Because the mandatory service in Israel starts at the age of 18 after high school. And it only lasts between 2 to 4 years, depends on the specific path you're taking. So you actually have people between the ages of 18 to 21, 22, and that's all you have. That's the mandatory service. And these people, they need to join the unit, and in a matter of a few months, we need to get them ready to work in one of the most complicated areas in the world and protect not just the unit, but also the nation. And that actually puts a lot of emphasis on what we call the human factor. Because the challenge is, how do you take an 18-year-old coming out of high school with no official education, definitely not a degree? You don't have time to train them with a full degree, and you need to get them ready to work in 3 to 6 months. So that was the challenge that we had to solve in Israel, and with this mindset, this is the mindset that I'm bringing with me to the industry, me and my colleagues now at ThriveDX. So at ThriveDX, we are focusing exactly on this, on solving the skills gap or the talent shortage and skills gap in cybersecurity. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong direction. 1 sec. So while we're fixing this, Randy, maybe someone from the team can help. I'll just say a few more words about what we are trying to solve today. So one of the main things that I wanted to start with a story, other than the story of Hans Brinker here, is when I'm thinking kind of like about what we are trying to do, right? What we are trying to do here at this conference, in general in cybersecurity, solving the human factor, is actually we are trying to put kind of like our finger in a very big hole in kind of like in the dam or in the dike here. And the problem is that this is an interesting story, a very famous story of the Dutch boy that saved his town, right? The Haarlem in Netherlands, by identifying this problem, this leak, put his finger and stopped the leak. He sacrificed his life for that, but he saved town. Now the problem is, right, I don't know if that's a good analogy for what we are doing here, but we are definitely sacrificing some things, I don't know if our lives. But what's interesting with this story, right, is that if we take it to our reality right now, we understand that we don't have one hole or one leak we need to solve. Our problem is much more multidimensional. because we have many, many different challenges that we need to tackle, and we need to tackle them all at once. And as you can see in the next slide, when we think about kind of like the statistics and data that we have, right? So this is something, as I said, it's my 5th conference here, and the situation is that every year it's actually getting a bit worse. So I don't know what it says about us, but it definitely doesn't say what we are winning. So our challenge is getting worse, or our challenge is getting bigger every year, with the amount of talent that is required in the industry, with the cost of cyber crimes, and with the key factor of the human factor in affecting cybersecurity challenges. Now, specifically, when we think about what our need is, when we think about cybersecurity from a human factor, we need to move from a one-dimension thinking, from this one hole that we need to solve, to a multi-dimensional thinking about the human factor. And let's take an average organization, a typical organization for a moment, right? Think about all the layers of human skills, knowledge that are required to protect this organization. A lot of time we are focusing on the cybersecurity team, but this is actually the smallest team in the organization, or one of the smallest teams in the organization. When we think about security education, or cybersecurity talent and cybersecurity skills, we need to think about all the dimensions in a specific organization that affect the human factor. For example, one is every employee that has access to data, to systems, to anything that belongs to the company, to internet access, and these people require some level of skills that are beyond awareness. We like to say awareness, but the problem with awareness is that we can be aware of a lot of things that are not good for us, and we are still doing it. So the question is how we are moving from awareness to behavior modifying approach. This is one layer in the organization. And then there is another layer in the organization, which are the engineers, the developers, right? These are the people that are actually developing the software, the applications that later will be used by millions or billions of users around the world. And they are also a key factor in defining the security, right? They're also affecting their level of knowledge and skills will define the level of security of their applications and the vulnerability of the applications. We also have the IT teams, right? Not just the security teams, the IT teams that are affecting the network. We have the executives that make decisions, and of course we have the security teams, and all of them together are actually affecting what we call the human factor in cybersecurity. And for that, the approach that we are taking here, and the approach that I'm advocating for, is thinking about the human factor as a new category. We have categories in cybersecurity. For example, we talk about network security, endpoint security, cloud security. But when we talk about human factor, we call it training or education. We focus on the specific actions that we take, but not thinking about this as a vertical, as an attack vector on its own, holistic attack vector that has different access points, from the general employee with access to the systems, to the developer developing the apps and the software and the apps, to the cybersecurity and IT, to the decision makers. They're all part of what we call the human factor in cybersecurity. And what we need in this new category of human factor security, we need to think about real-world, end-to-end cybersecurity training and education from the classroom to the boardroom. And the reason I like this conference so much is because it brings together the educators, the industry, the government, all in this effort on solving the human factor. Now let's take a few examples to understand what is real-world, end-to-end, boardroom or classroom to boardroom. So when we think about real-world, I want to go back to the awareness example, because there are so many different awareness programs for employees, some of them from the academy, other are in the industry, other are sponsored by government and others. And the problem that I found in most of these security awareness programs is that they are not real world. They, for example, focusing on phishing that was 5 or 10 years ago. I don't know if it's an Amazon gift card or like a Nigerian prince scam, which is mostly not relevant for today's world, right? Not moving from phishing to spear phishing, not moving from the basic level of sophistication of phishing that was maybe relevant a decade ago to what today hackers will target when they think about an organization. And by that, we are not preparing our employees or preparing the industry for the level of skills they actually require. So moving from phishing to spear phishing is real world. Moving from one attack vector, maybe it's an email with a link, to multiple attack vectors, smishing and vishing, different type of challenges there. This is another big problem that we need to solve. Same thing with application security training, right? When we think about real world, real life attacks, it's also about the end-to-end. As I said, going beyond what we think is security, not just the security team members, not just the IT team members, training our engineers on new vulnerabilities, and there are new vulnerabilities coming on a daily basis. So they need to understand what caused these vulnerabilities, as many of them are actually caused on the application layer, and also what they can do in the future to prevent it. And also when we think about the security teams themselves, and this is kind of like a classroom to boardroom, the training doesn't stop at school. So how can we keep providing them relevant training with hands-on lab environments, et cetera, from the degree itself and to their workplace to start thinking about this as a career and not a job. So not just landing a job post-university or college, but actually building something that is sustainable and that they have the tools also to continue acquiring the skills and knowledge they need. So when we think about what we are trying to do here at ThriveDX and what we've been doing for a while now, it's a combination of companies. Some are known to you, Cyber Solutions, my company, HackerU, others. We joined with other companies, joined forces in creating ThriveDX. It's a new brand, but it has the same mission on reskilling the workforce and upskilling the industry, focusing on the cybersecurity component. And what we're doing is that we're bringing together the education institutions, the enterprise, and the government together with technological companies, technology partners that we have in solving this challenge. It means that on the education side, we'll provide boot camps and labs and other solutions, both for the degree and the non-degree aspects. On the enterprise side, we first match the enterprise with the graduates that we have, the talent that's coming from your schools, coming from other institutions, and also from our boot camps, and go beyond that by providing them the necessary education they need on the awareness level, on the application security level, on the IT security level, and of course the advanced security for security professionals, and working together with government and NGOs in setting the rules and guidelines and the right approach and tone to the industry to help the industry understand what is the direction. And as I said, we've been around for a while now, just in different names. We are working with dozens of institutions here in the United States, but also globally. Some of them are leading institutions, from community colleges to private universities. We are working with big enterprise, Bank of America and other organizations in the United States and around the world. And we have thousands of graduates and partners and learners around the world. And we are very proud of our ability to affect and influence and minimize eventually the role of the human factor in cybersecurity. And that's it. I want to invite you to join forces with us, right, in reskilling the workforce and upskilling the industry in cybersecurity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Roy.